Okay, so if you clicked on this video, you're probably struggling with your attention, and that's a really common thing, and I'm going to talk to you about some reasons why you may actually be struggling, other than the typical reasons you always hear, like you're not eating enough or you're not sleeping enough. Let's get into it. The first reason, possible reason why your attention may be suffering, you are not using correct intervals. So a common example of an interval technique would be something like the Pomodoro technique, in which you use these scheduled intervals in which you have like a 25-minute studying session, 5-minute break, 25-minute studying session, and then like I think it was like a 15-minute longer break. So when you have intervals like that, you are forcing yourself to focus in a shorter amount of time, so you don't necessarily have room to procrastinate. Because when you set yourself a timer that I have to focus for this amount of time, and you have like 20 minutes on the clock, then you know that you aren't allowed to stray from that, because you'd be wasting that 20 minutes. You see that time and you feel pressure to focus because you only have 20 minutes, you don't have an abundance of time. Whereas when you're not setting these limits for yourself, these intervals, you tend to wonder, because you think to yourself subconsciously that you have all the time in the world, you have hours depending on how long you have to study, so then you're not going to be as focused. And also when you have 20 minutes, it pushes it down for you, it lightens the weight, the load, because you're not going to be sitting there studying for hours on end. You're going to be studying only for like 20 minutes or so. So then you think that's achievable, I can do it, I can study and stay focused for 20 minutes, and then I can have a break to look forward to. Think of it this way, like if you've got like a hoop, like a basketball hoop, and then someone sets the hoop like 50 meters high, you're not even going to try, are you? You're going to be looking at that like, how am I going to achieve that? How am I going to get the ball up there? Like, you're not even going to attempt it. But if someone like puts it down where it's like closer to your level, it's a bit higher but it's closer to your level, you're gonna be like, okay, I can try that. Same kind of principle applies here. If you have given yourself hours of a study block where you have like this whole like 3-4 hours where you need to focus, you're going to keep wondering, you're not even going to attempt it, because it just seems so unachievable to be focusing for that amount of time, and you're just going to keep slacking. If you're sitting there thinking, well, I've been using the Pomodoro technique and it's not working for me, then maybe you need to consider tailoring the intervals to you. It doesn't have to be 25 minutes. You can shorten it to 10 minutes and give yourself a 10-minute break, or you can shorten it to, even if your attention is, you think it's suffering that much, you can shorten it to even 5 minutes. 5 minutes, again, 5 minutes of quality revision is better than an hour of rubbish revision where you're not even focusing at all. 5 minutes, you could, if you think about it, you can get a lot done in 5 minutes, and then have a break, another 5 minutes, have a break, and that way you can slowly build up your attention from there. So start with small intervals and then slowly build it up. The second possible reason why your attention may be suffering is you've got too much dopamine going on. So dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter in your brain that is released when you experience pleasure. So you probably heard a lot about dopamine if you've been doing like psychology and like GCSE or A-level psychology, because you'd hear about it in terms of like a drug addiction and alcohol addiction and things like that, because when you're addicted to drugs, it releases dopamine and other kinds of neurotransmitters, which causes you to crave more dopamine, and then therefore you have to keep taking the drug, and eventually the dopamine threshold becomes like higher and higher and higher, and you need to achieve more to achieve that same level of dopamine. It may seem like I'm going off on a tangent, but you'll see what I mean. I'm getting to this. You're constantly at a feeling of low, and in order to feel high again, in order to feel that same level of satisfaction, you have to keep taking it more and more, and that's where tolerance kind of builds up. Dopamine doesn't just get released from drugs and alcohol. Dopamine gets released in the forms of any kind of pleasurable activity. Anything that you may engage in that is pleasurable, you are essentially releasing neurotransmitters like dopamine. So if you are like constantly scrolling through social media, constantly binge watching Netflix TV shows like every night for hours, or all day for hours, which I'll admit that's what I was doing for a very long period of time, just constantly fueling and entertaining yourself, your dopamine levels and your threshold is going to be so high. And when you are like doing things such as sitting down and trying to do something that is really not pleasurable, which is studying, let's be real, you are going to feel so much discomfort because your system just craves dopamine, it just wants the dopamine, and you're doing something that is completely counteracting the dopamine, counteracting your body's need for dopamine. You're essentially experiencing withdrawal symptoms and going cold turkey. What you need to do, obviously, just as any drug addict would do, is you need to wean yourself off of the source of dopamine so that your system can regulate itself and bring itself back to normal baseline dopamine levels and isn't isn't so actively craving the dopamine. So slowly wean yourself off of the source of entertainment. Reduce the amounts of time that you watch TV for. Reduce, maybe switch from a super pleasurable activity such as watching TV to a pleasurable activity that is slightly less pleasurable, such as reading a book. Like for me, I know like my TV habits are so bad, so I'm trying to force myself to read now instead. So doing things like that will help you to regulate your dopamine levels again, so that you're able to focus for longer periods of time, hopefully. The third thing is the converse, which is a lack of dopamine. If you are so focused on studying that you are not even giving time for yourself to relax and have fun and enjoy yourself, you're going to be running yourself dry. You need to sharpen the saw in order to perform at your best. Let me give you a little story to exemplify this. So there are two men, yeah, and they're basically trying to see who can saw down their tree the fastest. So they have a tree each, and the person who saws down the tree first is the winner. So the first man is basically just sawing and sawing and sawing at the tree. He's not taking a break, he's not stopping, he's just sawing away. Whereas his companion, the competitor, the other man, he's sawing, and then he's taken a few minutes off to sharpen his saw, and then he starts sawing again, and then he stops and he sharpens his saw, and then he saws again. So the first man is looking at the second man thinking like, oh, he's definitely gonna lose. Like, look at him, I'm like sawing away, like sweating it out, and he's stopping and taking breaks and sharpening his saw. You can imagine who won. Obviously it was the second man, because the first man, he was just sawing and sawing. His saw is getting like proper blunt, but he just keeps at it, and then obviously if the saw is blunt, you're not really going to be making much progress. Whereas the other man, he's stopping to sharpen his saw. Obviously his saw is nice and sharp, and he was able to get it done effectively, and he was able to do it first, even though he was taking the breaks, even though he was stopping and sharpening his saw. What can we learn from this? Obviously the same kind of thing applies to you. In order for you to be able to perform at your best and to perform quality, this quality over quantity, you need to take breaks. You need to sharpen your own saw, your metaphoric saw, not your actual saw. You need to take breaks, and you need to rejuvenate yourself mentally, so that you're able to perform at your best. You're able to, study for longer periods of time and focus for longer periods of time by giving yourself that time out to refresh your mind and to enjoy yourself. Because having that dopamine, having that enjoyment refreshes you. The fourth possible reason for lack of attention and focus is a lack of association. So if you're doing like GCSE or A-level psychology, you've probably heard of a thing called classical conditioning. Classical conditioning is basically learning by association. So for example, a baby, in order for them to pick up language, they're associating the words, the actual language, and the words in the language with the visual cues. For example, if they're learning what mom is, how to say mama, and they see the actual person, their mum, they associate the person, what they look like, with the word mama, and then they, or mother, or mum, or mummy, and then they slowly pick up language like that by associating the visual objects, the visual people, the visual cues with the actual words, the sounds, everything. So we are hardwired from the beginning to learn through association. So let's say like you study at like completely random times of the day, or like you study in like different positions. So like one day you're deciding to study on like the floor of your room lying down or something, the next day you study on the sofa, the next day you study at the kitchen table. Like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but the problem is you're not forming strong associations with your environment, with the actual act of studying. It is more effective for you if you were to study at the same place at the same time, because you're associating in your head that time and that place with focused studying, and then your brain is going to be able to get into the zone, because it straight away associates that place and that time. Oh my gosh, it's this time, it's that place, that means we gotta study, we gotta get our game on, and we gotta start focusing, because you're associating, you're forming that association in your brain. Maybe even go even further and light the same candle, like having a sense, like a smell sense to associate with, or even eating, like prepare yourself the same study snack every time. And these associations will help you to, associate all of those things with studying, and hopefully you'll be able to get into the zone much easier. The fifth thing is too many distractions and too many things going on. Mental clutter. If you have all of these things, like this mental clutter in your head, how are you going to be able to focus? For example, like let's say we have a room, and the room is just filled with junk and clutter, like these piled, like like hoarders, like they have all of these things within their rooms, and it's just like a complete hoarding piles everywhere. And then imagine you're trying to go from one side of the room to the other and you're having to like wade through all of this clutter. It's going to be time consuming and it's going to be hard, obviously, as opposed to someone who has their room nice and tidy and organized and clear. You're just going to be able to walk straight from one side to the other, nice and easy. The same kind of principle applies in your head. If you've got mental clutter, all this stuff in your head, like, you can't expect to be able to focus as well and to be able to form these neural connections and pathways in your head if you've got all of this other stuff going on in the background. So a way to overcome this would be to, for example, use a routine. So when you have you know, certain things allocated to certain times of the day, that's going to help ease some of the clutter out of your mind, because you're not constantly thinking, oh, I've got to do this later, I've got to see my friends later, I've got to go to the gym later, I've got to do this and that. If you have like a clear set and a clear time of the day set for each activity or each, you know, thing that you need to do, then obviously it's going to clear some time in your head where you think that, okay, I know what I'm doing right now is my study hour and I have to study, then later on I can worry about everything else. Everything has its set time. That's going to ease some of the clutter out for you, and that's something that helped me personally because my day was quite full. I found by having made a routine for myself, it really helped clear my head. If you're worried about forgetting things, you can also set reminders through apps. There's plenty of free apps on Play Store that you can use, or maybe making to-do lists in notebooks. You can buy some notebooks from Amazon that have to-do lists, I'm pretty sure, or Etsy, or you can like download free to-do list apps off Play Store. Also, to help quieten some of the background noise in your head, practice mindfulness. Meditation is like doing reps at the gym. You're strengthening your attention muscles by doing meditation. So obviously, like just with the gym, you wouldn't go straight into it and pick up like a 500-kilogram dumbbell because you're probably gonna like break your back or something. You'd start off small. You'd start with the smaller weights to help build yourself up. Same thing applies with meditation. Obviously focusing and completely focusing on your breath. And like, you know, watching the rise and fall of your chest, that's going to be really boring and really difficult at first because it's just focusing on one thing and you've got all of these other things going on in your head. So start off with small focused sessions of meditation, so like 1 minute meditation, where you just sit there in silence for 1 minute and just completely focus on your breath and nothing else. And you may think that 1 minute is nothing, but when you do meditation for 1 minute, it's going to seem like a really long time. Trust me, just give it a go. And then slowly you can build yourself up. That way, just like at the gym where you're building your muscles up, you're building your attention muscles up by doing meditation. The sixth thing that may be holding you back in terms of focus is emotional strain. So that may be like, for example, if you're having friendship problems, you know, at school, college or university, or you're having family issues, or you just have something going on that's troubling you and bothering you and weighing down on you emotionally, that can definitely affect your attention span. It's all about fight or flight, really. So although it may not seem like a genuine threat where it makes your heart race or makes your you know, butterflies in your stomach and stuff, it's definitely going to be there in a minor form of fight or flight, because when you have these negative emotions, it does often release adrenaline, cortisol, that plunges your body into a fight or flight kind of state where it shuts down digestion, it inhibits brain functioning because your body is so focused on surviving. In order to learn best and in order to progress and function in terms of your brain, you need to keep your brain happy. So again, a way to do that would be to practice mindfulness, so the small sessions of meditation. You can also keep a journal. You can get journals like for cheap, like from supermarkets and stuff, or you can order nice ones from Amazon or Etsy, or you can download free apps that have digital journals. They even have like the little pins where you have to like type in the pin to access them on your phone, which I think is really cute as well. You can use journals to brain dump any negative emotions you have. So when you're brain dumping negativity and when you're brain dumping all of your emotional strain and emotional clutter, then obviously you're separating yourself from the emotions because you're putting it down onto paper, and that helps to give you some clarity as well. And it may help you, even when you're writing it down and just seeing it on the paper, it may help you to even come up with solutions as well for any solvable emotional problems you may be having. In order to interrupt negative trains of thought and overthinking, you can use vocalization such as physically out loud saying stop. So like if you're in the middle of a study session and you feel like you're overthinking and you're going down the train of thought again, just say stop, like physically out loud say stop. Obviously, like if you're in the coffee shop and you're doing like a coffee shop study session, don't be saying stop like then, because obviously everyone's going to be thinking like, who's this weirdo? Don't be doing that. Obviously, like if you're alone and you're having that train of thought, then obviously you can use that vocalization. In terms of visualizations, you can also visualize like a metal wall coming down that's blocking out all of the negative emotions in your head. Or you can visualize like a red balloon, and you're putting like, because you learn like anger can often be represented by red, the color red. You can visualize that red balloon, and you're putting all the anger and the thoughts into the balloon and just letting it go, and the balloon floats away. That's another thing you can do. In terms of physical ways to stop overthinking and mental trauma, you can get like an elastic band or like a hairband and just wear it around your wrist. You know, like how some girls, they wear like hairbands around their wrist when they have their hair down. You can do that, obviously like not so tight that it restricts your blood flow, just like how you'd wear like a hairband loosely around your wrist, like that. And then when you feel like you're overthinking, just pull it and then snap it very, very lightly against your skin. Obviously not to hurt yourself, but just like a tap. Just like it feels like a tap, like that. So that physical action can help you to interrupt your negative trains of thought as well when you're in the middle of a study session or wherever, really. And then finally, eating and sleeping. I know I said I wasn't really going to talk about that, but eating and sleeping, now that we've got to the end of the video, this is just a final note. If none of the other pointers that I've said kind of resonated with you in the terms of you thinking that, oh yeah, this might be the reason why I can't focus, then it might be just simply down to eating and sleeping. If you're having a lot of sugary foods, like loads of cakes and biscuits for your study snacks, obviously those are short release energy bursts, like you're gonna have sugar crashes and stuff. You need to have slow release energy, so that would be in the form of carbs. Cut out the energy drinks, cut out the fizzy drinks, that's not gonna help you. Eat your 5 a day as well, vitamins and stuff. You need to be putting good stuff in your body if you want your brain to focus. Also, you need to be drinking water. Your brain is made up of around 75% of water. If you're not drinking water, your brain is going to be a shriveled raisin and you're not going to be able to focus and study, obviously. And also sleep. You need to be sleeping, because when you don't sleep enough, this protein called amyloid beta plaque, I think it was called, builds up in your brain, and that contributes to Alzheimer's later down the line as well. So you need to be making sure you sleep so that you have clarity and good cognition so that you can focus and study. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. I don't think I have anything left to say other than a little self-advert here. I made a personal statement guide as well, so if you're applying to uni, basically that guide has all the advice that got me into the University of Portsmouth, Southampton, Brighton and Sussex, and King's College London as well. So if you're interested, the link is in the description of this video, go check it out. And yeah, I don't think I have anything left to say other than good luck with all your exams, with everything. You got this, and yeah, bye guys.